Story 1: The Masked Visitor. It was Halloween night in 2022 when a small neighborhood in Michigan decided to revive their annual trick-or-treating event after 2 years of silence during the pandemic. Families decorated their homes, pumpkins glowed on porches, and laughter filled the chilly air. Among the children wandering from door to door was a man dressed as a scarecrow toll, with burlap fabric covering his face and a straw hat pulled low. At first, no one thought much of him. His costume was impressive, and several parents even complimented the realism. He didn't speak, only nodded and stood at the end of driveways, watching silently as children collected candy. As the night went on, people began to notice that the scarecrow wasn't following any kids. He just appeared standing still across the street from groups, then disappearing when they turned away. One father, Tom, grew uneasy when he saw the scarecrow behind his own house as he brought his son inside. Thinking it was a prank, he went out back with a flashlight, but the man was gone. Later that night, a neighbor's doorbell camera captured the same scarecrow standing perfectly still at 2:43 a.m., right in front of their porch. The footage glitched for a moment and, when it returned, the scarecrow was gone. The next morning, police received a call from a few blocks away. A homeowner had found pieces of burlap and straw scattered near a broken window. Inside, muddy footprints led through the kitchen and out the back door. Nothing was stolen, but in the middle of the living room sat a candy bucket filled with razor blades wrapped in foil. No one ever found out who the scarecrow was, but every Halloween since, someone leaves a single straw hat on the same porch. Story 2: The Basement Party. In 2019, a group of college students in Salem decided to throw a massive Halloween party in an old rental house just off campus. It was an old Victorian-style home, rumored to have a basement that used to serve as a mortuary during the early 1900s. Of course, that made it the perfect party spot for Halloween. The music was loud, the costumes were elaborate, and the energy was wild. Around midnight, the lights began to flicker, and everyone cheered, assuming it was part of the show. But when the basement door swung open on its own, the crowd quieted. A few drunk students decided to explore, using their phones for light. The basement was freezing, with damp walls and old rusted equipment. In the far corner sat an old gurney covered by a sheet. One of them lifted it as a joke, but underneath was something they couldn't explain. It looked like a perfectly preserved human body, skin grey and stretched, eyes wide open. They screamed and ran upstairs, calling 911. But when the police arrived, there was nothing under the sheet, just an old metal frame. The officers assumed it was a prank. The students insisted otherwise, swearing they saw the body's eyes move. A week later, the house's owner called the police again. Someone had broken into the basement overnight, leaving behind muddy footprints and one message scrawled on the wall in red paint: "You woke me up." The house was abandoned shortly after, and the college banned parties there permanently. It still sits empty today, the basement sealed with iron bars. Story 3. The Candy Caller. In 2021, a quiet suburban town in Arizona experienced something that parents still whisper about every Halloween. It began when several families received anonymous calls on October 31st each, one around 8 p.m. The caller's voice was cheerful, childlike, and said the same thing every time. Check your candy before you sleep. Then the line would go dead. At first, no one took it seriously. But later that night, one family discovered something alarming. Inside their child's trick-or-treat bag was a chocolate bar that looked slightly off. When they cut it open, they found a sewing needle embedded inside. The police were called, and soon more families reported similar findings: candy bars tampered with sharp objects. Authorities traced the calls but couldn't find a source. They weren't coming from any registered number. Even more unsettling, one mother claimed her caller ID showed the name Your House during the call. After an intense investigation, police released a statement saying the candy contamination was likely an isolated act. But one officer privately admitted something odd. In each home that received a call, the family's doorbell camera captured a child-sized figure standing at the end of their driveway, waving toward the house, holding a phone. When officers tried to enhance the footage, the face appeared distorted, like it was melting. The following year, no one in that town went trick-or-treating again. They say if you answer a strange phone call on Halloween night and hear a child's voice say, "Check your candy," hang up immediately because the caller might already be watching from outside.